Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about Lemonade,
Okay.
ticker symbol LMND. So this is a stock that has been making headlines lately, and you've been doing your research.
Yeah.
And you want the inside scoop without getting lost in all those numbers and the weeds and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So let's figure this out together.
Okay.
Is Lemonade a risky squeeze or a sweet investment opportunity?
Well, it's certainly been a wild ride lately. It has. Remember the, almost 20% jump we saw back in November, and then that steep drop that happened in December.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, for sure.
For sure, especially with today's jump.
Yeah.
Lemonade's currently sitting at $37.16.
Wow.
Almost 15% up from yesterday, and trading volume is through the roof. What is driving all this excitement?
Well, their Q3 2024 earnings were impressive, but what really got analysts buzzing, I think, was Lemonade raising their revenue forecast for the year to $524 million.
Yeah.
And that's a bold move that signals some serious confidence.
No wonder Piper Sandler increased their price target for LMND. Plus, they just added Maria Angela Deuce-Smith to their board, who is a tech powerhouse,
Right.
who even bought a ton of shares herself. That's a big vote of confidence.
It definitely is. But here's the thing about Lemonade. It is known for being a bit of a roller coaster stock.
Oh,
Even with this good news, it's still very sensitive to overall market trends, so we need to look beyond just, the company itself.
that makes sense. So for someone thinking about investing in LMND, what's happening in the broader market that they should be aware of?
Well, the S&P 500 has been relatively stable recently.
Okay.
But there are still concerns about inflation and potential interest rate changes.
Right.
And that uncertainty tends to hit the tech sector pretty hard.
Yeah, especially with, new competition emerging.
Yeah.
Like DeepSeek AI, heating up the AI space. It seems like, these external pressures could really impact a company like Lemonade.
Exactly. So we have these positive internal signs, but these external factors, could really throw a wrench in the gears.
Okay, so where do things stand right now? Can technical indicators give us some insight into where LMND might be headed, at least in the short term?
Well, the technical indicators are sending us some mixed signals.
Uh-oh.
So you see, when we look at something called the Relative Strength Index, or RSI, which basically measures the speed and change of price movements, we're seeing it approach what's called overbought territory.
Hold on, let me jump in here for a second.
Okay.
I want to make sure our listeners are following along. Now, you explain what overbought means in this context?
Sure.
Because it sounds like a good thing, but I have a feeling it might not be.
You're right, it can be a little misleading. Overbought essentially means the stock has been rising very rapidly and might be due for what's called a price correction,
Uh-oh.
which could mean a potential drop.
Okay, interesting. So even though we see positive momentum in the short term, this overbought signal suggests that things could shift quickly.
Yeah.
That's something to keep in mind. Are there any other technical indicators that we should be paying attention to?
Absolutely. So, if we look at the longer-term trends, the 200-day simple moving average, which is a key indicator for the overall direction, is pointing upwards. So that suggests that LMND could continue to climb over the long haul.
Okay, so we've got short-term volatility, but a potentially positive long-term outlook.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Lemonade's profitability. They're projected to hit over $1 billion in revenues by 2027. But right now, they have a negative price-to-earnings ratio.
That's right, and that's the million-dollar question. Can Lemonade turn their innovative ideas and growing customer base into consistent profits? That's what investors are really looking at.
So for you listening right now, this boils down to your risk tolerance and your investment goals. Are you looking for a stable, low-risk investment, or are you willing to ride the waves and bet on Lemonade's potential for explosive growth, even if it means taking on more risk?
Exactly. If you're looking for a safe bet, LMND probably isn't for you. But if you're okay with some bumps along the road and you believe in Lemonade's vision, it could be a very sweet reward. It all comes down to whether Lemonade can truly disrupt the insurance industry and become a major player in the long run.
Yeah, they've definitely got the technology and a growing customer base.
Right.
But the question is, can they translate that into sustainable profitability?
It's not a guarantee. Their reliance on artificial intelligence and automation could be a vulnerability if there are any issues or biases within those systems.
Right. And?
Let's not forget about the competition.
Oh, right. Traditional insurance companies are catching up, developing their own tech-driven platforms.
Right.
And then you have newcomers like DeepSeek AI coming in with potentially disruptive technologies of their own.
It's a crowded space, no doubt. But Lemonade does have some distinct advantages.
Like what?
Well, first, they have a strong brand that resonates with younger, tech-savvy customers.
Yeah, I can see that their marketing is very modern and appealing.
Exactly. Second, their platform is incredibly user-friendly, which is a huge differentiator in an industry known for its complexity. And third, they're constantly expanding their offerings.
Oh, yeah.
They started with renters and homeowners insurance, but now they're branching out into pet insurance, life insurance, and even car insurance in some markets.
That diversification is smart. It spreads the risk and opens up new growth opportunities.
Exactly.
So for our listeners who are intrigued by Lemonade but maybe hesitant to jump in right now, what would you suggest they do to stay informed and make a decision on the line?
Well, I would say keep a close eye on their earnings reports. Those quarterly updates are crucial for understanding their financial health, their revenue growth, and their progress towards profitability. Also, pay attention to any news about their expansion into new markets and product lines.
Okay.
Those are key indicators of their growth strategy.
It's like following a company's journey, seeing how they evolve and adapt.
Exactly. And don't forget to watch for any partnerships or acquisitions. Those can be game changers in a rapidly evolving industry like insurance.
That makes sense. You're reminding me that investing is more than just looking at numbers. It's understanding the story behind the company.
Absolutely. And speaking of the bigger picture, keep an eye on that competitive landscape. How are other insurtech companies performing? What are traditional insurers doing to keep up?
Right. It's all about understanding the context, seeing where Lemonade fits into this evolving insurance landscape.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't forget about those macroeconomic factors we discussed earlier, inflation, interest rates, and shifts in consumer behavior.
Well said, investing is like piecing together a puzzle, gathering information and anticipating what's coming next. And sometimes the smartest move is to wait for more pieces before making a decision.
I love that analogy. It really highlights the importance of patience and informed decision-making.
Exactly. It's about finding that right balance between being decisive and being cautious.
So we've talked a lot about the potential risks and rewards of investing in Lemonade. What would you say is the key takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think the key takeaway here is that Lemonade is undoubtedly an exciting company with huge potential. They're at the forefront of innovation in the insurance industry, but it's crucial to remember that it's still a risky investment.
Yeah.
Their future is uncertain, and there are many factors that could impact their success.
Right, they could be the next big tech giant.
Yeah.
Or they might struggle to achieve consistent profitability.
Exactly. It's a gamble, and each investor needs to decide if it's a gamble they're willing to take.
So basically, the decision ultimately comes down to your individual risk tolerance, your investment goals, and your belief in Lemonade's vision.
Precisely.
Do your research, weigh the pros and cons, and make an informed choice that aligns with your financial strategy.
I think that's great advice. Investing should never be a blind leap of faith. It's about understanding the company, the market, and your own financial goals.
I couldn't agree more. Well, I think we've covered pretty much everything on Lemonade. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap things up?
Whether you choose to invest in Lemonade or not, I think their story is a compelling example of how technology is disrupting traditional industries. It reminds us that we live in a world of constant innovation, and there are incredible opportunities for those who embrace change and stay ahead of the curve.
That's an inspiring note to end on. It highlights the importance of being adaptable and forward-thinking in today's rapidly evolving world.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of Investing Talk Podcast.
It's been a pleasure discussing this with you.
Thank you for joining us and sharing your expertise. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We hope you found this discussion on Lemonade insightful and helpful. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth conversations about the stocks and trends shaping the market. And don't forget to share this episode with your fellow investors and leave us a comment below with your thoughts and questions. We appreciate your support and look forward to connecting with you again soon. Until next time, happy investing. So we've talked about earnings reports and expansion into new markets and products. What about their competition?
Oh, that's a great question. Keeping tabs on the competitive landscape is key. How are other insurtech companies performing? What are traditional insurers doing to adapt to this new wave of technology?
So basically, we need to see how Lemonade stacks up against the rest of the industry.
Exactly. Are they truly leading the pack, or are they falling behind?
Okay.
And don't forget about those macroeconomic factors we talked about. Keep an eye on inflation, interest rates, and any changes in consumer spending that could impact the insurance market as a whole.
It's like we're detectives, gathering all these clues to figure out if Lemonade's a good investment.
I like that analogy. Investing does require a bit of detective work. You need to look beyond the hype, analyze the data, and consider all the angles. And sometimes the smartest move is knowing when to wait for more information before making a decision.
That's a great point. Patience is definitely a virtue when it comes to investing.
Absolutely.
So after all this discussion, what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Lemonade is a fascinating company with a lot of potential, but it's also a risky investment. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding their future.
Right, they could become the next big success story. Or they might struggle to turn their innovative ideas into consistent profits.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important for you, the investor, to do your research, understand your risk tolerance, and make informed decisions that align with your financial goals.
Investing shouldn't be about blindly following the crowd. It's about making smart, calculated choices based on your individual circumstances.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything on Lemonade. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I'd say that Lemonade's journey, regardless of its outcome, highlights the incredible power of technology to transform traditional industries. It's a reminder that we live in a dynamic world where innovation is constant and opportunities abound for those willing to embrace change.
That's an inspiring message. It's a reminder that we should all strive to be adaptable and forward-thinking, not just in our investment strategies, but in all aspects of our lives.
Absolutely.
Well, that wraps up our look at Lemonade. Thanks so much for joining us today and sharing your insights.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of you listening, thank you for tuning in to Investing Talk Podcast. We hope you found this episode informative and helpful as you navigate the exciting and sometimes challenging world of investing. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, and leave us a comment below, letting us know your thoughts or if you have any questions. Until next time, happy investing.